Welcome back for once again another quick episode. I'm rolling these things out like hotcakes right now. So I have some good news and bad news for this thing. We're running out of time to get stuff ready for Colorado. So the bad news is pretty darn bad news. But the good news is I have something to install on the truck, which is going to be, assuming we can make it onto the trip, is going to make the trip a little bit better, a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit easier, and just something I think you guys are going to appreciate. But then the bad news, may as well break it to you because it's not something I can solve in today's video because I had to order parts. But essentially that P01420 code or P0420 code that I thought maybe my catalytic converter was bad or something else was going wrong. I hopped underneath the truck this morning, put my vacuum on blow and put it up the tailpipe so that way I could spray down the exhaust and see where soapy water was bubbling from and see where the exhaust leak, if there was any, might be. I discovered that there was a massive exhaust leak from 102 sensor, the one that is upstream from the catalytic converter. Turns out the last person who worked on this truck, maybe they installed a new O2 sensor or something, but they never put the two bolts in that go on top that actually hold the sensor in. So no idea how that thing has stayed intact this entire time. Everything under there is really corroded, but I'm also leaking on either side of the catalytic converter. And so I've decided I'll just order new catalytic converter gaskets, new O2 sensor gaskets, get some bolts on that thing, call it a day. But what I figured out was everything in there underneath the truck, exhaust-wise, is so corroded and rusted that there's no way to even unbolt anything. Like I can't unbolt the catalytic converter from the catback, and I can't unbolt the downpipe from the catalytic converter. So essentially everything's gonna have to get taken out and replaced. One, I did confirm that you could cut everything and then I could bring it to a shop and just have them weld in new metal, but it's kind of jank. All the metal under there is super rusty, so it's only a matter of time until it actually goes bad. And so I've ordered a new downpipe, a new catalytic converter, and a new catback for this thing, which I'll be installing as soon as it comes in, hopefully in time to leave for Colorado, because otherwise this truck will not and cannot drive multiple thousands of miles. So patiently waiting, kind of sweating over that scenario. However, today, let me grab it. We've got a cell booster antenna. So this thing is from a company called HiBoost. This is their Truck 3.0 antenna. And what this does is amplify a little bit of cell signal that you may have. It won't create cell signal where there purely isn't any, but it will amplify cell signal where you may have a little bit coming through your phone. So maybe you guys have seen these on off-road rigs and overland rigs, if you will. But basically the plan is to mount it to the GFC on the back here, and it should be pretty straightforward. And this was the other thing that I needed to have panels for to be able to mount, because you have the antenna and then you have the hardware, whatever you want to call it, this device here, which, well, let's just open it. Can you guys believe it? 3 unboxings and 3 videos in a row. This is magnificent. This is just a closer up, the HiBoost Travel 3.0 truck cell phone booster. So we can pop this guy open. And inside we've got a user manual, 2 antenna extenders, so that way you can get your antenna higher up. The hardware, the brains, the antenna sits on the outside of the truck, and then this sits somewhere inside of the truck. And this I want to be able to mount to that, basically that panel I just made in the last video on the other side of the DC to DC charger. So this is what's going to be inside of the truck, boosting the cell signal. And again, the reason why I made those panels for the inside of the GFC. If you guys missed that video, go check it out. Mounting brackets. Probably not going to be using this because I actually found a company whose part I'm waiting for to come in tomorrow, I believe, who makes a product specifically for GFC that's going to work hopefully with this antenna beautifully. We're kind of testing things out, so we'll see. But I don't know if I'm going to use this hardware, but good to have nonetheless. Comes with a bunch of zip ties. Can never have too many of those. Some sticky stuff, probably to mount, I would imagine, this guy if you wanted to. Antenna and antenna cable. I think they said it's 15 feet long or so. So we have the cable and an extension cable for it. We've also got some Velcro strips, I imagine, to maybe mount this guy with Velcro, if that's, yeah, that lines up pretty well. If you wanted to mount this with Velcro, I'm hoping we can just screw this in so it's a little bit more secure. A little adapter, probably what screws into these arms. We've got our, I'm not sure what this would be called. It's like a spring that helps the antenna, you know, if you whack something or in the wind, helps it kind of bend a little bit so that way you're not breaking the antenna and there's a little bit of give there. We have the power cord, so this runs into your cigarette port. Lastly, we have this antenna, which I believe is designed to run inside your truck. So this is what you want close to your cell phone when you're using the cell booster. The antenna pulls it in, brings it into this, boosts the signal gets pushed out to this antenna, which goes directly to your cell phone. So that is pretty clutch. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna mount this inside the GFC or inside the cab yet. We'll have to figure that out. But that is everything. So let's get started. So to start putting this together, I'm gonna start with the obvious thing, which I suppose would be the antenna. And now when we're in Colorado, this is gonna be useful because we've traveled to where we're heading to last year, and there were definitely some spotty cell areas, and we're gonna be trying out some new places which are pretty remote and I'm sure are also gonna have poor cell service. So this will just be nice, you know, if we do need to use a cell phone. We have like an inReach Garmin, which, you know, useful. However, if we could just use our cell phones, it'd be a lot easier. It seems like this cable just goes straight down one of these rods, and then the antenna just gets screwed into the top. And all metal fittings, metal threads, which is nice. This is actually plastic, so lightweight. You don't have to have a heavy antenna coming off of your truck. HiBoost does offer a swivel bracket for this thing, if you guys can kind of see there. It wasn't going to work particularly well for the GFC install, so I will be very excited to show you guys what I have in mind to install it onto the side of the GFC. But we could add another extension onto this, but I think this is going to be long enough. We're going to take this little piece here, which screws onto the bottom, but then has an outlet hole for the antenna wire to come out. Whoa, don't want to. Okay, careful now. So you push it through, and then this should pop out of this hole like so. And then same as the extension, we just screw it onto the bottom. Next, we take our spring, and this seems really, really freaking heavy duty. It's like stainless, so it shouldn't rust. And this just gets threaded onto the bottom of the whole assembly here. So for today's demonstration, I want to basically use their mounts so you can see how you'd mount it up, and I have some spare T-nuts for the GFC track. So to mount this thing to the HiBoost bracket, just unscrew this 22 mil nut, take our bracket, keep the washer on top of the bracket, put this back on, and then secure the nut. One of you guys in the comments saved my life with this, so I don't have to drill holes into my factory bed. One of you guys had mentioned that there's actually holes up underneath this little ridge here. So what I'm hoping I can do is run this cable through that hole and then down and then up the GFC and across to the antenna. So now we have our cable run outside of the truck and just wired kind of up to the panel right now, just loosely until I get the actual device mounted to the homemade DIY panel here on the GFC. Okay, so panel is off. Now we can figure out where we want to mount this. We've got everything basically installed here. So this piece of hardware doesn't have really any mounting brackets, but it does have these holes on the side. So I utilized those to drill through the wood and then zip tied it on the top and the bottom. And then, as you can tell, I've also mounted the interior antenna. This is what your cell phone actually picks up service off of, not the antenna on the roof. We have all that sitting behind here, which will be nice because this is all you're going to be able to see from the front. So I've drilled a hole up top here and on the bottom to run the cables, so that way just less wiring going on. But we've got our power cable, our out antenna cable, and our in antenna cable all situated. And so now should be able to just put this back up here and bolt it back on. And now with everything put back together, this is how it looks. I think it's a really clean install, especially running the wires behind the wooden board is just about as clean as it can get. So now we have usage of both panels that we made in, the last video. And now the cell booster is ready to be tested and see if it works. I've got it plugged into the Anchor Solix, and it's pulling about 10 watts of constant power when it's running. So lights are on. Let's see what happens. So normally at my house, I get either 0 or sometimes 1 bar of service on here. And right now I'm getting a bounce between 3 and 4 bars of service. So I had this thing turned off. I was getting 1 bar, turned it on, and probably within a minute or two, my service jumped up to about 3 to 4 bars. And they do have a third-party app that you can kind of monitor this stuff on your phone to see what the signal strength coming into the antenna is, and making sure your phone is actually close enough to the indoor antenna, because obviously it has to be close enough to the indoor antenna to actually pick up the signals. So pretty cool. I like that you can monitor it through this app, and the install was overall pretty simple. And I think out in Colorado, when we're doing like some of the passes, we'll be high up on mountains or in the middle of nowhere desert, I think it'll be pretty useful to have a cell booster, even if you know, it's an extra bar. Sometimes that's all you need. So, or if we get into trouble, you know, flat tire, knock on wood, you know, something happens, it'd be nice to not have to use something like a Garmin InReach and just be able to pick up the phone and reach out to somebody or do some research maybe to figure out how to fix the problem. Like, I'm going to bring tools with me, and a Garmin InReach isn't going to tell me how to repair something. But if I can have cell service, then perhaps I can search on the interwebs and maybe ask you guys, reach out to you guys for some help and figure out how to solve a problem. So, you know, it's just an extra tool in the toolkit, and shout out to HiBoost for sending this out. I'll have a link down in the description below if you want to check it out, as well as their swivel mount. Might work for your setup, but tomorrow the GFC mount should be here. So we get to do another unboxing, and this video is not over yet, so don't click off, because I have to install the GFC mount and get that antenna totally situated. And then I actually have a friend of ours who is 3D printing some parts that should hopefully just add the nice tasteful finish to this modification. So I will see you guys as soon as I have another package to open. Well guys, it's been probably a couple days since I last picked up the camera on this antenna install. As you can see, I've pulled the antenna back off because Andrew from ASG Off-Road sent me out their antenna mount. It's a swiveling mount made for the GFC. So it actually just attaches to the T-tracks using T-nuts, and allows me to swivel the antenna, put it down if I'm doing, you know, highway driving, put it up later. And I also had to order an adapter because the mount that he offers is just a different thread pitch. So I'll let you guys know. I picked this up from McMaster-Carr, C-A-R-R, 3/8 by 24 to an M10 by 1.0 adapter. So I had to pick one of these up to be able to get it to mount to the antenna, but then also mount to the mount. And by the way, Andrew is a legend for getting this out of here so quickly. I reached out to him and told him about the road trip and the time constraint. He's like, don't worry, man, I will send one out to you ASAP, and hopefully it gets there in time, and hopefully it all works out. So Andrew from ASG Off-Road, shout out to you. And he also offers a bunch of different stuff for not just the GFC. He makes this mount for a bunch of different topper campers. So if you are interested in picking some stuff up for your GFC or other camper similar, make sure to hit up ASG Off-Road. But now we are back on the HiBoost antenna. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the mount that we've already mocked up and get ready to install this one. So we'll just unscrew this mount, and I'll hold on to this mount from HiBoost, because if I ever decide to upgrade my antenna or a different antenna, this could be pretty useful. So pull the T-nuts out and get ready to put on the new one. All right, so I've got some wrenches here to make sure everything is tight, as well as some blue Loctite. So I'm actually going to pull this apart and just add a little bit of Loctite to everything. Let's actually take all of this off. Okay, so I've put blue Loctite on all the fittings on the antenna, and I don't know if we're gonna need that nut anymore, but I'm gonna add some Loctite to the bottom threads here, grab our adapter, and the female side threads into this. And then we'll use a couple different wrenches here to make sure that's nice and tight. And this is a stainless adapter, and this all looks stainless, so just aesthetically speaking, looks really nice altogether. But now we're ready for the ASG Off-Road GFC mount. All right, so unboxing what Andrew sent. And I've already opened this up because I had to make sure it was gonna work. But here is the top part of the mount that's gonna screw into here. He provides some thread locker, which is nice. Shout out to him. Give him a follow on Instagram. Always love to get some stickers. So the nice ASG off-road sticker. And he provides the GFC specific T-nuts, which is really nice. So all of our hardware is there. This is the lower portion, which is going to, in some fashion, fit into here. And then he also provides this piece, which basically will make more sense, but when you flop the antenna down so it's horizontal, this is where the antenna just lays in to keep it from kind of bouncing around as much. This is going to mount to the actual antenna, so we'll put, again, some more thread locker on our adapter and get this spun on. And the reason I had to get the adapter is because this is metric and this is standard. So I had to just switch thread pitch and thread size. But obviously now you can see it bolts right up. And now we're ready to hop up on the GFC track and get this guy mounted using the remaining 2 bolts and the T-nuts. Okay, so hopping up here, we're gonna put our T-nuts in the track, just like so. And now this guy is gonna sit right over those T-nuts, and then we can start to spin it in just a little bit. There we go. Get our blue Loctite on the other one and start to spin this in. And then I'm gonna position this pretty far back on this track. Actually, might even go further back. So now if we grab the HiBoost antenna, this little pull rod slips out and in. Then we take the last bolt for this assembly, thread locker, and thread it in. And then I've just gone ahead and added the support, which is just a T-nut through here, tighten the Allen, and clicks right into place and holds the antenna and keeps it from bouncing this way. It's not really mattering, it's not gonna go up and down much, but it keeps it from bending downward. So really, really solid setup. And now we get to move on to the fun part, which is gonna be cleaning up the wiring in the T-track, which I have a really good idea for, and also a part that my buddy printed on his 3D printer. So I'm hoping to, one, put some conduit around all the cabling that's on the outside of the vehicle to tidy it up. And then a buddy of mine has a 3D printer and actually printed a bunch of these little clips that snap into the T-track on the GFC and retain the wiring. So what I'm hoping is it'll definitely work with just the wiring that comes with the HiBoost antenna. I'm hoping it'll clamp around the actual conduit as well, but we shall see. I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this thing all cleaned up on the top of the GFC, and we should be wrapping up the install. And there you have it, folks. The install is complete. Everything is nice and tucked using those clips, and it wraps around here, goes down inside the truck. And this, I left enough slack so that way when the tent is popped, it still is enough cable. So super cool. Very happy with how the HiBoost antenna turned out. And literally not a minute too soon, finishing up the install of the HiBoost antenna. It is torrential downpouring. What else is new in Tennessee? So thank you guys so much for watching. Link down below to HiBoost's antenna if you guys are interested in boosting your cell signal. I'll also throw a link down to the ASG off-road GFC antenna mount, swivel mount, if you guys are interested. And I'll try and put some information on that adapter that you're probably gonna need if you wanna go ahead and use that. But just be careful when ordering, because it's a lot of numbers that you wanna make sure you have correct. But stay tuned for the next one, where I have a very exciting DIY mod for the GFC to help us get ready for Colorado. But I will see you guys in the next one. It's raining really heavy. I love you all. Adios.